Hello, everybody. My name is Chinnarat, and I am recording a short overview of how I've implemented GTD in Rome. I guess a little bit about my relationship to GTD. I have used GTD ever since 2003, back when I took David Allen's workshop and I implemented it in Outlook. I've since played around with GTD concepts in Asana, OmniFocus, even played around to see if I could implement it in Evernote. And it really, nothing has really ever stuck per se, but the basic principles of GTD have been very useful to me. In regards to Rome, I've been using Rome since about November 2020, thanks to Rome Book Club and Joel Chan was an inspiration watching his interview. And I had watched a YouTube, a free YouTube course on kind of the basics of Rome. And so maybe a little bit of a background here is I did try to start with PARA, stands for Projects, Area, Resources, and Archives. Um, I did define some projects. It didn't actually. It seemed didn't seem like the right system for me as someone who's been using GTD for so long. So at best, it's probably used as a strategic planner. But on all honesty, that is what my GTD project, or at least my implementation in Rome, has come to. For the most part, I'm not keeping track of a lot of next actions, and kind of coming up with, people to call on my phone list or things to do in the office. I think what it's called in the book is called context, and for the most part, where GTD has been most useful is just really keeping track of the really high level. I guess you could. I think he likes to call it the 10 foot, the 10,000 foot level. Do a lot of the strategic planning. It might even be lower because I think the 10,000 foot level is the 10 or 5 year outlook. I'm probably keeping track of maybe a 1 or 2 year outlook. So maybe it's the 5,000 or foot level or something like that. But for the most part, I was not doing GTD in Rome for quite some time until about April 2021, and it's about 7 months ago that I did my GTD suite. And one of the things that I've been passionate about for over the past 7 to 8 years is well-being, and a particular framework called the five essential elements of well-being. And so you can see that I created some CSS tags here: purpose, physical, financial, social, community well-being. And just as an experiment, I thought I'd actually try to sort my projects into this framework and just see what happens, and just run with it. And so so what you see is I have my projects in here. One of the things to note is I haven't really distinguished in terms of whether a project is an actual page. I've had a significant amount of information. There's information there. But a lot of times I noticed that projects didn't justify having a whole page. Maybe this well-being 5 icebreaker is a good example. What else do I want to say about this? Oh, and you might also notice that the numbering skips, and that's because I have filtered this page. And so I'm not showing complete projects. I'm not showing projects that happen to have to-dos on them that are done. I did make a tag to hide projects. And I know, and David Allen likes to call them he has a project list, and he has a list that he calls kind of a someday maybe list. I did a course called Mission Control, I think back in Thailand, and I found it a lot more powerful to call that someday maybe list a not now list. So they're projects that are just not active now, and they might come active maybe 2 weeks from now, next month, in a shorter time frame. And then the other list, which is a third list that I thought was really useful, is initials are NVDN, which stands for Never Doing Now list. And these are projects that you're not just doing, a month, a year from now. I mean, these are projects that you typically can be complete, that if you never get them done until the day you die, you're complete. And some people would be a fan of just deleting these projects. I know people debate highly about whether to delete things. This is one way of, I guess, archiving these projects, acknowledging that they exist, and just saying, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna fly a plane this year, or ever. If I never learn how to fly a plane, it's okay. And that would be an example of a project that would be on my personal never doing now list. With that, I think the structure is actually pretty straightforward. I just have projects listed under here. Occasionally, I'll have like a strategic action attached to a project. It's actually not common. I think I put them there as kind of placeholders. You'll see that I did try to play with some context for a while because this is so experimental and has things that worked and didn't work. I'm not finding that this phone list being very useful, but I'm just going to acknowledge that I tried it and it didn't really work for me. I did try to mark certain projects as professional projects just to see if I could separate my work and personal life, and I'm sure some of you could probably agree that it's a little difficult sometimes, especially if you're an entrepreneur, to kind of separate that. Having clear boundaries between your personal and professional life can be rather challenging. And so that's exactly what I've discovered. And so I don't think the tag has actually provided as much value as I had hoped it to provide. And one thing I find useful is that this next action in terms of finding a career coach, I found it useful to block reference either actions or projects. And by block referencing, I used to use Asana, so this way I had basically, much like I did in Asana, I had kind of this ongoing discussion with myself around a particular task or project. This has achieved much the same goal. And here I have a history of notes, going all the way back to August of 2021. As you can see, this I've been at this for a while. So. But I find that actually very useful. Saying if you go ahead, you have a history of this action, or it could be a particular project. But that's something that actually I find useful. There's nothing different about each of these buckets right here. It came out, it's inevitable. You try to sort life into what you think are going to fit into 5 buckets, and you come up with some things that are different. And one of the things that actually did stand out is actually this whole, one of my top 5 strengths as a learner. And I just realized trying to read books or trying to take courses, they're outcomes, but they felt like they were there to move from one of these outcomes forward. So I made a choice to make it separate. Whether you do that or not, it's up to you. And I have this kind of unsorted list. Trying to think if there's anything else that I want to share. I think, let's see. I think I did want to talk to my profile. That's probably the only other thing I wanted to talk to. So I'm assuming this is the GTD. Yes, it is. So I'm just going to jump. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me, or want to see some of the my notes inside GTD, and there it is. And I'll go ahead and click into that. I think you'll see that I, much like everybody else, I have a current tool stack. The one thing you might not know is if you go ahead and click on the tool stack and you see some of these linked references, you actually can index and see what other people are using. That's really handy for anybody who's new to Roam. Same goes with experience with GTD. If you go here, really interested, nice to see at a glance, what people's experience with GTD is in our posse. Let's see, what else is there? I went ahead and kind of listed some of my experience using and implementing GTD and other tools, and some of the paradigms that have influenced me over the years. And then the game that I was inviting everybody to play was to I answered my 5 whys using 5 questions. And so I stepped up to lead RBC 7 in January, and and how it kind of dovetails with this club is can we organize RBC 7 using GTD in Rome and use multiplayer? So a lot of us are really focused on kind of our individual implementations, and I'm just really curious whether we can keep track of outcomes and tasks and assignments. And I think fundamentally it's more than just about RBC, but it's really an inquiry around, how can we implement collaborative GTD? Um, so if you are interested, yeah, I would, I didn't insert the template in any of these questions. You'll see that these are empty. In RBC 6, we had a template in here, which I might add later. But I invite you to go ahead and use the question namespace. I should show it again, q/ to go ahead and start collecting our questions. What you're going to see is as you do q/ and all kinds of people in our club are asking all kinds of questions here. So it's a good way to begin to see what kinds of questions our club is asking and engage with each other. So other than that, I really want to thank you for listening, and I hope that was insightful. If you have any questions, my Twitter handle is here. You're more than welcome to roam, comment on anything in my profile or anything that I write in the graph. And other than that, I'll see you in the next session.